I think we'll get the session started. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to today's Olympian Mindset session, and welcome back to those who have joined the previous Olympian Mindset webinars. We're so excited to have you here. My name is Asha Baltog. I'm part of the team leading the Create Apps initiatives at the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy. Before we dive into today's 5 winning habits of effective leaders workshop, let me give you some background about the Create Apps in Dubai initiative, which was launched under Dubai's creative economy strategy led by His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. And it aims to position Dubai as a global digital innovation hub by 2025. So the App Olympics competition is part of the Create Apps initiative, and we'll tell you more about the competition towards the end of today's session. So for now, I'll hand it over to Paul, who will be your facilitator for today's webinar. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Aisha. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today. Really excited to be here. And as Aisha said, we're going to cover 5 winning habits for effective leaders. So before we move on to that, and we've got a lot to cover today, let me just introduce myself. My name's Paul. I spent 20 years as a fighter pilot with the Royal Air Force and the US Marine Corps. I then moved to Dubai in around about 2014, and I've had about 10 years now in leadership roles. I was a divisional vice president at the Emirates Group, and I work for a global travel firm based out of Germany as the chief operating officer. And in that time, I've worked with dozens of startups through various different accelerators and incubators, Interact being one within the UAE. There's some up in Abu Dhabi and recently some work out in Saudi. And I really love the energy and the spirit of people involved in the startup community. And I try and do everything I can to help and provide the benefit of some of my experience. Right now, I run my own company providing guidance and advice to senior leaders. And hopefully today, I'm going to try and give some of that to you. So what are we going to cover today? 5 winning habits, goal-orientated leadership, organizational skills, collaborative spirit, innovative thinking, and planning and networking. And as we go through this, feel free to write questions within the chat, and we'll try and get to those when we get to the end, and I'll try and answer those for you as best I can. But the good news is there's going to be loads of interaction today. So if you've got your phones ready, get ready. There'll be QR codes coming up that will bring you into Mentimeter, and then we'll use that to ask some questions, run through some exercises, and that will really help me get a feel for what you're thinking about, what your challenges are, and we can make today as valuable for you as possible, because that's the whole reason to be here, is to try and give you some insight. So we will get on with it. Very first thing is a bit of a test for you. QR code, scan the screen, and answer this question here for you as you step into today. What do you feel your biggest leadership challenge is? And shout if you're having trouble getting into the app. Here they come. Okay, lack of empathy, I recognize corporate culture. That's a good one. Yes, very challenging to operate within. Connecting with the team, time management. Okay. Clarity of role, disorganized management. Okay, we'll try and cover some organization later on. That's good. Okay, let's start with this. We've got some time management, some clarity of role, disorganized. Okay. So the first thing we want to cover today is this concept of goal-orientated leadership. And one of my favorite quotes about this is from Seneca a long, long time ago. If you don't know where you're sailing, no wind is favorable. And really, from my experience within the military and then subsequently in business, I think that there's 3 things as a leader that you are responsible for getting done. And as all of you are here to build something or to create something, you are by very definition, a leader, even if it is only of yourself at this stage. So you need to be responsible for these three things. They are very clearly setting direction. Which way are we going? This is why we have leaders, to say we're going over there, or we're going over there, or we're going to stay here for a bit. This is the function. The next thing you need to do is, once you've made that decision about where to go, is you need to support your team so that they can help you get there, because that's your intent, your direction. And lastly, and most importantly, and you'll really find this as you move up into the startup space, is you have to be prepared to take accountability for that decision you made. And ultimately, as a leader, all of this falls upon you. And it's a really big deal when you start bringing in investor money, or you start putting your own money into a project. You've got real skin in the game, so to speak, and taking accountability for what happens is really important. So in the context of goal setting, setting direction is the first job you need to do. Decide where it is you're going to want to go. So building that vision, setting direction, where is my objective, where is my goal? For all of you looking to build an app, to build a startup potentially, the main place you want to focus is on the problem. You want to identify a specific challenge, an issue, something that causes people pain, something that causes people problems. And this is where you really need to start when you're thinking about your goal. Where do we want to be at the end? And we want to be solving for a particular problem. And it's really important when you start off that you do some work to validate your problem. We all have ideas about what's wrong with the world. We all have ideas about a good thing that would help. But as I talk and support teams, what I find more often than not is that we don't go out and actually speak to the people that we think have got this problem. And one of the things you want to do really early when you're building your vision is get some of that primary research done to make sure that your problem really exists in the way that you think it does. And you can pinpoint actual people with actual problems, because that's going to be crucial if anyone's going to start using your product down the line. Once you've done these things, this is when you can start to define your mission, as we would call it, or your goal, or your vision, or your objective. And this needs to be something that is pretty significant. Don't be too shy to have a really bold vision. You need to have a mission that's meaningful, that's got some purpose, i.e. to solve this specific problem, and something that's going to inspire people to work with you, to work for you, and ultimately down the line, to buy your product, your service, your app, your whatever you're doing with your startup. I wouldn't make your mission a solution just yet. I would make your mission solving a particular problem. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, it resonates really well with the audience when they say our mission is to solve for this problem, to make people's lives easier doing A, B, and C. That really resonates from a communications perspective, but it also prevents a big trap that people have when they go into innovation and entrepreneurialism, is falling in love with their solution. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on as well. So back into the app. So that we can kind of configure what we're doing today, share a goal you're working towards now. Something that you're trying to do in your lives, in your work lives. It doesn't have to be about the App Olympics particularly, if you haven't got one in mind right now, but just think of a goal that you're trying to solve today, or trying to move to today. Check the chats, feel free to click through this. Here they come, career advancement. Okay, it's a good one. Self-improvement. Okay. Just a quick skip and see if we've got any more. Here we go. Better health. I like that one. Yeah, health is really important. Building a team, launching your app. Okay, we've got an app one in there. Fantastic. Okay, I'll move on from here because we've got the message. People have got some goals here. Professional growth. Yeah, align that with career advancement. Nice. Okay. So what I want to talk about now is how we put a little bit more meat on the bones of those goals and make them something that somebody can help you with, whether that, again, is your team, its partners, its investors, And it's this really simple mnemonic of SMART. Essentially, when you're defining a goal, you want to make it these 5 things. Your goal needs to be specific. So if I jump back a little bit here, we've got career advancement. Now, for me, that means a very different thing from probably you guys on the call. So we want to make that a bit more specific. Self-improvement, in what area? I want to create my own company to create an impact. Okay, we've got something that's a bit specific there. I want to create my own company. So that's very nice. So what we want to focus on right at the beginning is, what is the very specific thing we want? When I talk about building a vision or an intent or a goal, what I like to do is I like to paint it so clearly in my head that it forms a mental picture. And as a leader, I've found this is really powerful in communicating to my team what it is we're trying to do. Try and explain what good looks like, and you do that in the most specific way you can. The second thing that helps with this is making it measurable. So you want something which gives you some tangibility to it. So I would like to gain some muscle mass. I would like my muscle percentage to be 25, 26% by the end of October. So I've got something specific I can measure and I can work towards. And that really helps us with that specificity, and it really helps us track our progress towards a goal. Achievable, yeah, obviously. Now there's a balance here between being, what's the word I'm looking for? Being optimistic and doing something big and meaningful and making it achievable. But you've got to have an idea in your head about how you're going to get there. You've got to know that the thing you want to do is possible. Otherwise, you're just basically wishing. Relevant, your objectives should be relevant to your vision. So make sure that your goal supports some longer term plan. For all of the things we saw on those earlier answers there, you'll see that they're part of your overall life. They're not the whole of your life. And so you want to make sure that all of these things are heading in a direction that serves your life goals and your objectives. And then I kind of hinted at this earlier on. You want to make sure that any objective or goal you set is time bound so that you know when you're expecting to reach it. And this is really useful. So the measurability and the time bound is what allows you to assess progress. And assessing progress is what's going to allow you to see if you're on track, if you're behind, if you need to pivot altogether to achieve what you're looking to achieve. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And now what I'm going to ask you to do, for those of you that put in some goals, try and rewrite them now, thinking of them in a smart way. Doesn't have to be a long sentence, but just think about that specificity, measurability, and that time-bound element, and you'll be 80, 90% of the way there. For example, if I come back to this one, career advancement, I would like to achieve the next grade or this role within the next 12 months or 24 months. That might be something you'd write for this one. Career development, I would like to move into this industry within the next 12 months. Here we go. Lose 5 kilograms in 2 months. Okay, great. So what do we got here? We've got something specific. It's measurable. It's achievable, hopefully, based on your lifestyle and what you're looking to do to change. It's relevant to your goal if I'm linking this back to the improving health one. And you've got a 2-month timeline to do this. And this is a fantastic way to start thinking about your goals and your objectives. I can already see that in my head and I know where I want to go. And if without any further direction from you, I needed to make a decision, I could start helping you on that journey just from having that clear goal. I want to launch my app in 6 months and have at least 50 users. Okay, really nice there. I think what we'd want to do is split those into 2 things. I think you've got launch of your app, day one launch app, and I think you've got a separate goal, which is to gain a certain number of users in a certain amount of time. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I really like that. And then be in the top 1% of my domain, build my own company. Okay, really, really nice. I like the intent. What I'd ask you to think about there is just how would you define 1%? How would you measure that? Is there rankings? Is there a way that you could say definitively to me in a certain amount of time, which we'd add in there, that, hey, Paul, look, I am in the top 1%. Proof, go. So I like the intent. And clearly the drive for excellence is something we can all get on board for. But just think about how you would make that objective a little bit more specific and measurable, more measurable when you write it down. Move to manager, bring project, okay, attend training, alignment with my values, next 18 months. Okay, so we've got an objective there, and then I think we've almost got some kind of sub-objectives. So attend 1 training or 4 trainings within the next 6 months, deliver a project within the next 12 months, with the overall objective to which those supported being to move to a manager position in the next 18 months. So how are we feeling? Does everyone have a good idea now about SMART objectives? Can you give me thumbs up on here? Does that work? Let me get a bit of feedback from, we've got, someone's written in the chat here. That's good, thank you. Can we get any feedback? I can't see it. I'll assume you're happy. Shout if you're not. Oh, I'd like to hold a position in my career during 2 years from now where I lead my own project that would develop my work placement through saving time. Okay. I like this. So you've got an objective here to lead your own project. And now what we'd think about, now we understand what that looks like, we'd think about what you need to do to move from where you are today to get to that objective. I could help you with that because you've got a SMART objective. I like it. And I want to develop my leadership skills in 3 months. So what I'd say on this one, thank you for writing it, is that leadership skills is not very specific. So you might say, I want to improve my emotional intelligence, or I want to improve my ability to delegate, or I would like to be able to influence my team a little bit more. Something that would allow us to measure it a bit more. One of the challenges with leadership is it's quite tricky to measure. Everyone knows what it looks like, but that's what I probably do with that one there, is look to be a little bit more specific. So let me just see if there's any more before we move on. Good. Okay. How's everyone feeling about goals? Good. I'm just going to summarize before we go on this page. The important thing as a leader, whether you're leading yourself or you're leading a team or you're building a startup, is that you need to have a clear vision about where you're going. The way to get that vision is usually around focusing on a specific problem and then establishing SMART goals and objectives on your way to solving that problem. So the next thing we want to cover is organizational skills. And Stephen Covey has written a few books that I really love, but one of his great quotes is, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And as I think back to my life as a fighter pilot, this was one of the things that we did particularly well. In fact, we had to do it very well because there was just only so much time and things were moving very fast, and we didn't have the luxury of doing all the things in the world that we wanted to. And as a consequence of that, we became very good at prioritizing. And I think one of the key elements of organization is going to be about prioritization. So for you now, what's your biggest challenge staying organized? What do you find is causing you problems organizing your life, organizing your time at work, organizing friends and family, organizing your development of your app or your building your startup? What challenges do you have? We should get a nice pretty word cloud this time, which I'm looking forward to. Here they come. Procrastination, yes, okay, that's a good one. Prioritization, well done. You got the clue from my intro. Not a system in place, okay. Time, rushing. Finances, interesting one, okay. Let me give a quick skip, see what else has come through. Much more here now. Time, we live, okay, interesting. Industry, community, finances, time. Yeah, okay. This is the nub really of organization, is how do we get the most of our time? And I'm going to introduce you now to the Eisenhower matrix. If you've seen this before, you can put a thumbs up in the chat or something. That would be really handy, just so I can get a feel for what you guys know. But the Eisenhower matrix, developed by famous general, is a way of identifying what's important and urgent, or not important and not urgent, and putting them into a nice 4x4 grid, which is a consultant we love, and using this to move things in our priority around life. So if we move through the quadrants to explain it, if we've got something that's important and urgent, we have to do it now. Now, that sounds really simple. The problem is that oftentimes we end up with a lot of things sitting in important and urgent, and it saturates our entire time. And if we're in that situation, we've kind of messed up earlier, and we need to do something about it. There's not much we can do when we've got a lot of important, urgent activity going on. The matrix says do it now, and we need to get on with that stuff straight away. But if we move left a quadrant to decide, so not urgent and important, this is where you should be spending most of your time as a leader. You want to be giving tasks to partners, to suppliers, to team, to anybody you can, so that you don't end up with a lot of important and urgent work. For me, as a fighter pilot, important and urgent was a crisis. And we want to not go through life firefighting crises. So while this is important, you've got no choice. You've got to get on with important, urgent things. What you want to be doing is getting them done an awful lot earlier. So how do you free up time above the line? Well, you need to be ruthless. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner, not urgent, not important, say no. And one of the big things about being an entrepreneur, one of the big things about going to business for yourself, one of the best ways of managing your time in general is not giving away your time for free. You need to learn that having coffees with people is great, but unless it's part of a deliberate plan to move your business forward or your life forward, then maybe that's not the right way to be spending your time. When you start off in business, building a nice web page and a landing page and doing all your is maybe not the best thing to be doing when you should be out there getting clients. So one of the most important things to do is find as much as you can and put it into this delete box. Not urgent, not important, don't do it. Down here in the bottom right, you've got urgent and not important. And when you run a team, this is where we talk about delegating that work down. And increasingly, you want to move the bar of what's important enough for you to delegate as high as you can by moving work down into your team, into your partners, to making sure that they are getting on with that work so you can focus on the important stuff, which should be up here. Important, not urgent. And if you get that work done, what you find is that now you only have things outside of your control that jump into important, urgent. Because as soon as something's in that box, you are now committed to work on it, to deliver it, and everything else stops. So importantly here, what we want to do is keep stuff out of this box as much as possible. As leaders, we want to spend our time in important, not urgent. We want to be ruthless about what we allow to enter into our lives, and eliminate, prioritize, say no to anything that isn't important or urgent. And then finally, as much work as we can to delegate. Now, for those of you that are working by yourselves or don't have teams, really now's a good time to think about AI and using that as an assistant. I delegate a lot of work to my various LMMs. While it's not full-on delegation, It requires all the same skills: give a good brief, provide the context, be clear about what you want to achieve. And I would really recommend, if you haven't already, and I'm sure you all have, that you can start to manage some of your workload challenges by delegating into an LLM, and that might help you significantly. So let's see if there's any questions. You can recruit someone to work this function. You can focus for more time. Yes, okay, some comments coming up there. That's really good. Yeah, if you've got a bit of budget, then picking who you hire, which is essentially a delegation function, is really important. Think about those important and urgent tasks that you want to get done by somebody you've delegated to. Okay, so I've got a quick scenario for you. You're a founder of a tech startup, you're growing, you've got a to-do list, you've got a small team, and you've got limited time. So these are the 4 things you need to do: create content for a social media app, prepare a deck for your pitch next month, finalize your prototype for next week, and plan a launch party for your app. So all great stuff. What I want you to do, just scan in again and just score those 4 things on how urgent they are and how important they are. And that will put them into the quadrants on our map, and we can have a little talk about it. Aha, we've got some coming up here. I'm going to have to put my glasses on for this because this is small writing. Okay, we've got up in the top right, finalize the prototype walkthrough to showcase next week. We've got prepare a deck for your pitch next month. I see that there. Create content for your social media posts to promote your app. Not urgent, but nicely on the line there. Well done. Plan a launch party. That's down in not urgent, not important. Let's see what else we've got coming up. Okay, they're starting to move now as we get, there was obviously some competition there between 1 or 2 of you. Content for social media posts. Okay, so let's have a talk through them. So create content for social media posts to promote your app. Yep, pretty important. You need to get your marketing out there. If social media is one of your distribution channels, then that's pretty important. But of course, it's only important if you've actually got something to push to the market. You've actually got a product. So yeah, I like that positioning in that not urgent but important quadrant. Let me see what else is updating now. Oh, no, push it back up. Whoever got a chance to move it again. 2, prepare a deck for you to pitch next month. Prepare a deck for you to pitch next month on stage. So I'd say this is pretty important. We've got a bit of a timeline. Maybe it's something you could delegate. But if it's for you, you probably want to get this right. So yeah, I'm happy with it sitting up there. It's reasonably urgent, but again, we want to resist this urge. This is something we want to get done nice and early so that it doesn't drift into this urgent and important stage. So we've got a month. If we can, we want to get this away. So we've got an 80-90% solution done. So we're ready to go when the time comes. Finalize the prototype. I like the fact that this is firmly up in the top right. Yeah, this is important and urgent. Hopefully there's not too much to do and this isn't a crisis, but this is absolutely something that we've got to have on our to-do list, absolutely something we've got to get finished so that we've got all the key features in the app for next week, which isn't far away at all. And then I like the clarity, what's what I'm looking for? Overview consistency on planning for the party. Yeah, not urgent, not important. I maybe not put it in delete. I mean, I think you're right. I think it sits down there, but maybe this is something that can wait and we don't have to get on with this until later on. For me, a lot of these sit up in that top left. Ideally, this is all stuff that we're getting done in advance and none of this is causing us our crisis of emergencies. And we think about our timelines and we organize that way. Okay, one thing I will say for all of you as you move into this App Olympics or as you move up into any startup or entrepreneur enterprise is make use of frameworks. I don't think it came up in the organization piece, but one of the biggest challenges with getting all of this work done is what we call cognitive load. Is that with so much coming in for you to do, your brain gets tired, your ability to think and be creative gets tired. And what you want to try and do is, we're in the 21st century now, is try and do as much as you can to reduce that cognitive load. So frameworks exist for almost every stage of the business that you're working in now, and I would find them and make good use of them. The other thing, and I just talked about AI for supporting you in delegating to, the other thing I think is really powerful is if you need checklists, if you need frameworks that support you doing repetitive tasks without having to think it up from scratch every time, it's another really powerful use of AI that supports you in building ways of working that are consistent, that you and your team can follow, with the overall objective being to reduce that cognitive load that you're feeling as a lone startup founder. Okay, let me just quick check the chats if there's anything in there. Okay, good. Right, let's move on. Collaborative spirit. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. And look, I flew in a single seat fighter jet all by myself, but it was far from being a lone activity. There were dozens, if not hundreds of people involved in delivering a successful mission, both in the air and on the ground. And our ability to collaborate with those people to ensure that we got to our objective, to our mission, to solve our particular problem was absolutely vital. And it gets more and more important that you're able to collaborate, the higher the stakes and the faster the tempo. And being in a startup, there is a huge amount of people that you need to interact with and be able to collaborate with. And here is just a few of them. There's you in the middle with your idea, hopefully. You've potentially got a team. Ideally, you'll have a team. You may have some co-founders. Ultimately, at some point, you're going to have some users and customers. You might be working in an incubator or an accelerator to help you develop your business plan, help you develop your idea, your go-to-market strategy, and everything else. You may well have advisors and mentors that are supporting you, and I recommend you do. You're going to have service providers, people providing you with legal advice potentially, marketing teams. Maybe if you go this route and you don't bootstrap, you'll have investors. Very different types of investors with very different objectives, and you'll want to understand how you work with them. You have your angels, your corporate investors, your VCs. And then at some point, you end up talking to the government, whether that's regulators, whether that's licensing, whether it's all sorts of things you might need to do. And the point of this side is just to recognize that while you may be a lone founder with an amazing idea that you want to build, at some point, sooner or later, you're going to need to work with others. And understanding the importance of collaboration and some great ways about working with people in a collaborative way are going to really help your journey. It's not really a meritocracy out there. Absolutely, you need to be good, but a big part of making success in business and making success of it is having those good connections, making sure people know who you are and what you're doing, and they support you in that journey. So for me, collaboration is really important when you're going to do anything challenging. So some tips for collaboration. I don't think there'll actually be a quiz, but worth remembering some of these. So the first thing here is whoever you're collaborating with, you need to have aligned goals. And we talked earlier on about building that very clear goal so that somebody can support you getting there. And ideally, that journey is also supporting the other person as well. So if we talk about investors, you've got a goal of solving the problem. They're going to give you money to help you solve that problem. You're going to get loads of business from that problem. They're going to get a return on their investment. We've aligned goals here where we all want to do the same thing for slightly different reasons, but we're aligned in what we're trying to do. With your team, with partners, I can't tell you enough how important it is as a leader to be crystal clear about what you're trying to achieve and why. And if you're not aligned, I say this to my teams all the time, either I would go into a room and the team would end up agreeing with me and what we were trying to do, or I would go into a room and I would end up agreeing with them or what we're going to do, or there might be a third way that we came to together. But at no stage can we go forward where the team thinks we're doing one thing for one reason and I think we're doing another thing for another reason. It's just going to end in failure. So for those of you talking about corporate politics and living in that space earlier on, making sure we're all crystal clear what we're actually trying to do and why is really, really important. Clarify roles. Make sure you know who's doing what. We've talked earlier on about prioritization and organization skills. It's really important that you don't waste effort by duplicating work. And as a leader, it's really important you don't waste effort by micromanaging the people you've asked to do the job for you. So making sure you're absolutely crystal clear on who's doing what, where the boundaries between that work ends, where they're going to ask for feedback is really important. It says here talking about the RACI matrix, and we'll show you a picture of that earlier on, but there's a really useful tool you can use for all of your stakeholders, who's responsible for delivering something, who's accountable for something happening, who's consulted on something. And this is a big one. When you make changes or you do things or you decide things and you don't consult relevant partners, they can get really upset. And who you're just going to let people know. Just FYI, we're doing this, tag along. So keeping those roles clear about who's doing what is really important. Yeah, open communication. Language is really tricky thing. Well, one of the things about professions, one of the things about being a fighter pilot was that we had very specific words that meant very specific things. And if you think of any profession, whether that's lawyers or doctors, or even into some sports teams, you start seeing that language is very, very specific and almost like a code. And this is really important because outside of those professions, and a lot of times in business and a lot of times in your big collaborative map, the word that you think means X means something completely different to somebody else. So it's really important that you not only engage in regular communication, but you get feedback, you make sure what you've heard's been understood, you play what you've heard back to people, because especially in the MENA region, especially in Dubai, we have a very diverse community of people. We have different understandings of words. I've seen $60 million be spent on a project to optimize, and both sides of that contract had a different understanding of what the word optimize meant. So clarifying your language, keeping that communication going so no one is surprised is really important. Yeah, kind of aligning to the goals and the roles, but leverage those strengths. One of the main reasons you want to collaborate is you don't know everything, you can't know everything, no one knows everything. You want to basically make sure that you understand where your strengths are and where your team members' strengths are, and assign tasks appropriately. Make sure people are doing work that they're good at. Don't force people into work they're not good at, will only end in disaster. And then trust. One of the most important things in collaboration is building trust. If we don't trust the people we're working with, then everything slows down, everything becomes difficult, and it's much more painful than we want it to be. And almost certainly in an endeavor as difficult and challenging as entrepreneurialism, you're going to have real trouble succeeding. So keep your promises, be accountable. We talked about accountability right back at the beginning. And if you take anything out of today, I'd love it to be the fact that you've got to set a direction and be accountable for what happens once you've made that decision. But that's a really great way of building trust. So let me just quick check if there's any comments coming up in here. No. So RACI, what does it mean? So responsible. These are the people that are going to get the job done. I am responsible for giving this presentation today. Accountable, they're the people that are accountable for the outcomes, the person that's going to take the fall if it's good or bad. Again, I keep coming back to this. It's a really important leadership distinction, that the blame lies with the leader. So and the good news, of course, as well. But we're all very happy to take the good news. We're not so happy to take the bad news. So understanding who's responsible for delivering things, understanding who's accountable for those things being delivered is really important. I explained earlier on that we want to make sure we know who we need to consult before we go and do anything. Investors, partners, they would all be co-founders. They would all be really big people that we would want to make sure we knew before we did anything, we had consulted with them. Others, for example, we would just inform and let them know. And what you can do with a RACI map, and you can go and find this online, is you identify all your stakeholders, going back to our big map from earlier on, identify the things that you're doing, the objectives, tasks, and make sure you know who is either responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed for each. Essentially, you need to work out who needs to know what so that you can collaborate effectively. So, enough of me for a little bit. Let's hear from you. What do you think? Now, you've collaborated with people in your lives up till now. Parents, friends, you've organized a bowling night, you've been out, you've been at school. At some point in your life, you'll have collaborated with people to achieve something. I want you just to think about what was the most important trait, what made you feel good, or if you've had a bad one, you can kind of explain it that way. But what's the most important trait do you feel for a good collaborator? Okay, communication skills. Understanding, communication, flexibility. I like flexibility, empathy, trust them, thoughtfulness. That's a nice one. Flexibility. Think outside the box. That's a really nice one. Yes. So, okay, let me talk about that one for a little bit. One of the things when you find your collaborators is, and people you're going to collaborate with, is you do want to try and find people that are going to challenge your ideas. You've come up to do something. Let's say we're in the startup space, we're building an app. We've got an idea. We've got a problem. We've got a solution for that problem. Let's go and do this. And it's really easy to fall in love with your solution. And when we see here about thinking outside of the box, you want somebody that's going to give you a different perspective, even if you don't end up agreeing with it. What you'll find is by going through that process of listening to another perspective, understanding where they're coming from, you'll get more insight into your solution, your way of thinking. It may validate it. It may make you even more sure, but that in and of itself is a good thing. You also want somebody that's going to bring a creative inject to your project. And so when we talk about thinking outside the box, one of the key things about what innovation is, and we'll cover this, I think, in a second, is bringing two different ideas together. And so somebody that's got a different perspective from you, they bring in an outside idea. You might find you end up with a merging of ideas and a third way forward. And I think that's really, really common when you're early on in your startup career. Focus is good. And I think when we talk about focus here, I would bring this back to this concept of aligning goals. You want somebody that's focused on achieving something that's aligned with what you're trying to achieve. And if people are not aligned, just bear in mind that one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to have a fairly average piece of work with these people, and back to your prioritization, they're probably not worth your time. Or worse, their objectives are counter to yours, and they're going to be going in a different way. And you want to make sure you're really clear on this when it comes to investors. Make sure you're really clear on this when it comes to co-founders and partners. You want to be really, really clear that you're collaborating with people that you've aligned the goals, that you share the same vision, or at least your individual visions are taking you in the same direction together. Communication is in there. I'd love to ask you more about what you feel about that. So if you want to put some comments in the chat about what good communication looks like. My views on this is it's timely, but we also have to be conscious of the fact we've got lots going on and prioritization is important. So having those regular catch-ups. We've got loads of tools now to communicate and collaborate. But I think certainly making sure we're communicating frequently is really good, especially with our team members. I love trust, obviously. Oh, I've given you a treat there. Different skills, we talked about that, very nice. Thoughtfulness, I love that. Yes, I mean, you want to work with good people. If you're going to go into business for yourself, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, the best thing about it is you get to pick the people you work with. So make sure you're picking nice people, thoughtful people, people with integrity, people that you can trust. And yeah, so this really for collaboration is the thing that you're looking to build. Now, trust really does equal speed. Everything takes longer if there's no trust. If you don't trust somebody with a handshake, you have to get a contract for it. If you don't trust somebody to get something done, you're going to be chasing up on them and making sure it gets done on time. It's a tangible, real cost to your business operating without trust. But it's not just a magic thing that you can build. Trust is built over time, and it's built by your consistent actions. And as cutthroat as you might think business is, people have got long memories and they remember, and it's very, very easy to ruin your reputation. So when you're operating with people, maintain your integrity. Don't overpromise. Do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't, communicate with people early that you're unable to do it. People don't mind failure. What people don't like is this the mistrust that builds when people aren't clear, people aren't transparent, people don't have integrity. And I promise you and this is no different from partners and people that you might see above you in the entrepreneurial space, same with you and your team. You need to trust them. And if you don't, you just got the wrong team, or you need to find a way of trusting them. And likewise, your team need to trust you. Again, you need to give trust. And often when you're working with a team, one of the most important things you need to do is you need to give trust first. You can't expect your team to trust you unless you are trusting them. And for any of you working with teams, any of you working in that kind of corporate space, this is one of the most important things you need to do as a leader, is start to cultivate trust by being clear about where you're going, by taking accountability, by providing support, communicating frequently, working a true collaborative relationship with your team, not a boss-subordinate relationship. And that will really help you. And if you're prioritizing properly, you'll have plenty of time to manage that without overcommitting yourself and having everything stuck up in the important, urgent, do it now, where things like trust start to break down. So there's a top tip from me. Trust is one of the most important aspects in all of this. Okay. Innovative thinking. Innovation distinguishes the leader and a follower. I think innovation's a really interesting topic because we talk about it a lot, and it's a skill that we kind of have to develop. And really, for me, it's just about looking at the world and being curious. This is a huge trait to develop if you can develop it. It's just to be curious about the world. If we think back to the big scientists of the century before last, almost, when they're finding out gravity and they're understanding how electricity works, or they're understanding about the human body. These people were curious. Why do apples fall from trees? Why does it always go down? Why does the light work when I do X? Why does the body work the way it does? It's this deep, deep sense of curiosity about the world around you, that is going to drive innovative thinking. And with that, what I think curiosity does is it broadens your perspective. If you're a lawyer, if you're curious about the world, you're curious about more than just the law. You're curious about tech advancements. You're curious about government. You're curious about what's going on in the Dubai port, for example. You have this desire to learn more about what's going on around you. And this is a hugely powerful trait to have, because what it does is now you bring ideas in from other industries, other sectors that maybe have had a problem that you face, and you can start to bring that into your world as well. So curiosity really is the kind of jumping off point for being innovative. But what I want to do is give you 5 rules for innovation. And these really very much apply to this business of a startup or building your app for the App Olympics. So the first, I think, is really important, is that innovation isn't always disruptive. You do not need to have a completely unthought of idea for you to be an innovator. You can just iterate and move a story forward. And that is innovation. You can come up with a new way of completing a process, and that is innovation. You can come up with a new way of getting to work each morning, or a new way of prioritizing your time. And that too is innovation. So do not get wrapped up in, I need to completely redefine the world if I wish to be an innovator. There are hundreds of innovations going on all the time in organizations and businesses and people's lives. And what you'll find, certainly those of you in corporate space, is that innovation is about robots. And I was having a chat with a friend of mine the other day in one of the big corporates, and there was innovation going on all the time, but none of it was, we've got a big press release about the fact we've got a robot, so we haven't got any innovation going on. And that's just not true. And I used the example of Kareem, because when Kareem came to Dubai, ride hailing wasn't a new thing. It wasn't even a new thing in the MENA region, in the Middle East. But what Kareem did was innovate on that concept and that product to solve the problems of the region very specifically. And that is a really good example of how this innovation isn't always disruptive. I've said this a few times today, and I'm going to keep saying, and I'm not going to apologize for it, because you've got to remember that whatever solution you've got in your head right now is almost certainly going to change. Where you should be looking as you start your journey is understanding that problem, those user needs. What is the pain point your users have got? Who are your users? How do they get around this problem today? What other problems look like this problem that have solutions you could borrow from? You want to deep dive as much as you can into the problem, not the product. And I've said that before. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. As much as we love tech, as much as through this program we are building an app, tech, an app is not the answer for every problem. So make sure that your problem is understood well enough so that your solution is actually going to make a difference, and there's actually users out there, people that have a need, that are going to use whatever it is you're building. And as much as I tell you this now, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be stuck and you're going to go, but I really love my product. It's really nice. It's perfect. But there's no market for it, or the problem doesn't really exist. And it's a really tough place to be in. And if you've fallen in love with the problem, you'll be much easier at that point to go, okay, we're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to change what we're doing, and we're going to have to move on to something else. Which takes me to point 3, which is fail fast. There's a famous saying, and I've been living this recently. If you're not embarrassed by your first product, you launched too late. Fail fast and learn faster. There's an amazing case study of NASA where they worked under a FIRE principle: fast, inexpensive, restrained, and elegant. And what NASA did, NASA normally had these big $13 billion programs that went on over multiple years and successfully did amazing things, but they were huge. And what they did in a small section of NASA was they got $10 million and they had 10 projects. And those projects were designed to be fast, inexpensive, restrained, and elegant. And there's a great book called Fire, which covers this. And only 30% of those projects were successful. But those 30% delivered so much value over and above the overall cost of the project that it was a net benefit for NASA doing it this way. And so the trick here is to move fast, put things out, let people test them, deliver a prototype, deliver an MVP, show people what you've got, let them play with it. Because if you don't, you never fully ratify your problem, your users, and that your solution matches for them. And as an example of that, we have Talabat. When Talabat first came into the region, set up in the region, they had a phone system for orders, and it was awful, and it failed, and it didn't go anywhere. And they immediately pivoted, and it seems obvious to all of you, I'm sure now. But what they did was pivot to online orders, streamline the whole process flow. Before you know it, you've got Talabat up and running, delivering food in the market. I've covered some of this earlier on, but collaboration drives innovation. Steve Jobs, Apple, very famously, they recognized that the Apple iPhone, or their products in general actually, are a collaboration between hardware teams, software teams, and design. And this is why they have such good products, and they've been such a dominant force in the market, because they recognize that the ideas from hardware, the ideas from software, the ideas from design, all need to be brought together. And I covered this a little bit in collaboration, but don't get into an echo chamber of the people that think your app's a great idea are the people that you're talking to. You want people that think, I'm not sure I'd use that app, and you want to find out why. And you want to talk to people that are outside of your sphere of influence so that they're going to give you honest advice about what's going on. Find partners in other industries, find people that are doing something similar, work amongst yourselves. And I don't know how much this goes on within the App Olympics, but you're in competition. Yeah, you are. But talk to each other. Some of you will have ideas or problems that aren't fit for your product, but that might support somebody else's. And this idea of working with your other teams, working with these incubators and accelerators, really, really powerful. And I've seen some amazing work done by people that are essentially competing, but coming together to support their ideas. And then for all the innovation, one thing I'd really love you to do, and so we talked a lot today about the kind of leadership pillar of my life, but the other pillar is operations and operational excellence. And for me, ideas are really easy, and saying things is really easy, but delivering them is hard. And so when we talked earlier on about our bold vision and our deep and our goals, we want to have in the back of our mind at all stages about how is this actually going to work? How are we going to get the very simple thing to say, or we're going to build an app, how are we going to make that actually work? What are the real practical steps of getting something done? And as an ops guy, it's always much harder than you think. Hey, let's all meet at 5 o'clock tomorrow for a coffee. Yeah, great, easy. Hey, where are we meeting? How are we going to get there? So on and so forth. Even these simple things have got more operational complexity. Google Glass really struggled with execution when they launched. Fantastic product, super innovative, really a little bit too ahead of its time. There wasn't really the ecosystem to support it. Marketing was pretty poor. And of course, Google Glass disappeared. And right now, we now have Ray-Ban glasses that are up and running. They've got some more tech added to this, and maybe a slightly better execution of that product, not so geeky, something that people can just wear as they're out and about. So think about at all times as you're going through this, how is this actually going to happen? And I kid you not, for a big chunk of my career, this has been the question I've asked and supported the answer for, and it's hugely powerful. So, a bit of a break. Quiz time for you, okay? I've got 3 innovations in inverted commas here. A tech company launching an AI-driven chatbot for a customer service, a local delivery service using bicycles for faster delivery on a congested urban areas, or a company that improves supply chain efficiency by 10% using new software. So grab into Mentimeter and then tell me which one's the real innovation. See if you're paying attention. Okay, we've got 2. I'd love to ask you about some of these answers. Why we've gone with what we've gone with. Okay, we've got one over here. If anyone wants to write in the chat why we think the local delivery service is one, that would be really interesting. Simple, fast solution to an existing problem. Okay, okay. We're getting a bit of consensus around the middle one. Oh, someone's gone out to the left. Tech company launched an AI-driven chatbot for customer service. Okay, can I be really mean to you all then? The answer is that all of them and none of them. What it depends on is, was there a genuine problem? And if that's the case, if they're solving for a real problem, then any and all of them can be innovation. Do you know what I mean? A tech company launching an AI-driven chatbot, if there's a real problem there that the AI chatbot can actually solve, a specific, measurable, accurate, relevant, and time-bound objective that the AI chatbot can support, then that's innovation. AI chatbots are newish to that company. Innovation within the company is good enough. If that saves money on the bottom line, if it improves customer engagement, gets results out to the customer quicker, then that is an innovative solution. Yeah, it's not a unicorn, but it's still innovation. The delivery service using bicycles. Yeah, I know where you went here when I was writing these. It was like, yes, it'll be this one. Yeah, because we think, oh, that's something completely new. But bicycles for delivery is hardly an innovation. I know you had to pick something. But what it is that for that company where they've got a specific problem, congested areas, it's bringing down delivery times, customer complaints are going up, we're getting increased churn in our business. How do we solve for that? Maybe not in Dubai, certainly not in the summer, but using the bicycles in that congested space might be a really good solution for that. And what you see in real life is there's a kind of a hybrid of this, which is your scooters, which kind of serve that purpose potentially. And then your company that's improves supply chain. Yeah, I lived here for a longest time. Is that, I mean, supply chains are one of the biggest costs and bottlenecks in any corporate business. And if you can do new and innovative things to reduce that supply chain, you can make huge savings for an organization. So yeah, innovation inside the corporation just as valid. So I apologize for tricking you and forcing you to pick one as well. But the purpose there was just to really make sure you're clear that an innovation can be iterative, does not have to be massively disruptive, and you don't have to go to sleep at night going, how am I going to do the next world-beating thing? And if you don't look at SpaceX, SpaceX didn't invent rocket flight. What it did was it iterated on that. It saw a problem in terms of the cost. It wanted to develop reusability, and that then drove a whole innovative process where they went around their engine design, further iterated that engine design until they got their ability to bring back rockets and have reusable rockets. All of that in a fairly established field. Rocket science has been going on for nearly 100 years now, about 100 years or so. So innovation, anything you want really, solving a problem in a new way, you're innovating. And this, coupled with curiosity, is really the mindset you want to go in as a leader. This is the job of leaders. And I would like to skip back to my Eisenhower matrix, is that we've got that important, not urgent space in the top left-hand corner. That is where leaders need to sit. You need to sit there with the time to be curious about the world and the time to identify meaningful problems, and then the time to bring those two things together and go, this is the solution. We have got a difficult supply chain problem and we've got an innovative solution. As opposed to every single day coming into work, firefighting your supply chain issues because they're not doing what you need them to do. And moving yourself as a leader from that top right-hand corner into that top left-hand corner is one of the most vital things you can do as a leader, to free up your time to be curious and to start to be innovative. Just have a look at the comments. Simple, fast solutions to this problem. We covered that. Wonderful. Okay, let me talk a little bit about Kareem. I mentioned it earlier on. All of you know Kareem. As I said, certainly not the first ride-hailing firm in the world. But how did they innovate differently? One of the first things they did when they got out here was they realized that the mapping on Google Maps for the MENA region wasn't to the standard that you really needed for a ride-hailing app. And so the very first thing they did was they went out there and they got their own custom, bespoke mapping sorted out and organized to fill in those gaps on the maps. So straight away, is that innovation? Yeah, there's a problem. It's not good enough right now. The problem is people can't get the taxi where they are. They can't find them. The routing's bad. It's costing us customers. It's costing us money. We need to fix that problem. How are we going to fix it? Well, we're going to go and get our own mapping. Innovation right away. Back when Careem started and across its expansion throughout the Middle East and into East Asia, is that at the time, a lot of people liked to phone rather than have a chat. And so the initial implementation was all online, much like the American system from Uber. Everyone's very comfortable with this. But again, people were finding they weren't getting customers. People were not using the service because they couldn't speak to a person. So in the early days, Careem went backwards and innovated, brought in this specific call center to manage this customer pain point. The other interesting thing that Careem had to innovate on was that customers wanted to pay cash. Not everyone was digital at the time, before Apple Pay and everything else. And so what Careem did to the overall Uber product, so to speak, was introduce this mechanism for cash payments. And all of those required a bunch of innovations. And again, don't always look at the end result, look at what had to be done by those operational teams to make that happen. As soon as I'm managing cash, I've now got to manage cash with drivers. I need an innovative solution for where I'm going to collect that cash from them from. How are they going to store it? How are we going to track how much was given? And so even walking into a space such as ride hailing, if you're in a different place, if you're in a different consumer base or customer base, if your product's got any nuance at all, you're almost certainly going to have to make tweaks and changes to optimize that product. And that is going to require you to be innovative. And the real trick of a leader is to see those problems. When we talk about innovative thinking, it's about going, there's a problem. Now, how do I come up with a new way of solving it? Because almost certainly all the old ways haven't solved it or it wouldn't be a problem. So curiosity, innovative thinking, that's how you build success at work. For those of you that are looking to move up the corporate ladder, solve problems, build a startup. For those of you who want to go that route, if you're in the App Olympics, solve a problem, build a product that people are going to want to use. If you're building Careem, solve a problem. Maps don't work. People want to speak to somebody. They don't want to use their credit cards. Go away and then solve those. Okay. Coming towards the end of the 5 now, and this one for me, it's really difficult because I keep saying these are really important, and they all overlap. And as a leader, you need to have all of these going at once. The last one is proactivity in planning and networking. And Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And it sounds really trite, but one of the things that I've realized over the years is that 2 things are true. One is that the only way we influence the world around us is by our actions. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Very, very few of them care about us in any way, shape, or form, and are all going about their lives to optimize for themselves. Out there is chaos. And only when we do something do we create a result. No one is going to come and knock on your door and say, hey, I've got a new job for you. At least you can't rely on that methodology. Hey, I've got that promotion for you. Hey, I've got the perfect thing for you to lose weight. Hey, I've got this great idea for an app. Would you be a partner for me? They're not going to come and find you. You need to be out in the world having agency and making a difference for anything to change. The second thing which supports that is that just be aware of how little you have influence over. So I talk about people in corporate environments and leaders in corporate environments all the time is that you don't have a great deal of power. You maybe have some control over your team, but you almost certainly don't control hiring policies. You certainly don't control pay in many companies. You might not control what is and what isn't a disciplinary. There's a lot which is not in your control as a leader. So being very, very comfortable that you operate in a space where you don't have overall control is really important. And no one is ever the boss. And I'll tell you this to you now, because I assume most of you are fairly early on in your careers. If you think getting the next position up or starting your company makes you the boss and everything goes away and becomes fine, you're never the boss. There is always somebody that you have to work with, always somebody that gives you constraints, even as you get up into rulers of nations. No one operates without any constraints. So understanding that your proactivity is really important, understanding that what you touch and what you influence is what's going to shape the world around you is one of the most fundamental skills as you move into being a leader. And then tempering that with the recognition that you only control so much. So be careful about what you plan that's outside of your control. So let's come into the QR again. We've got a multiple choice here to make it easy for you. Which is the biggest barrier that stops you from being proactive? What is stopping you from going out into the world and making the changes that you want to see? Yes, there is a big difference between a boss and a leader. I like that comment. It's true. And look, we've been trained over hundreds, well, 150 or so years to be this kind of boss figure. That is the Industrial Revolution methodology of managing people as machines and organizing them and managing them and controlling them. I just don't think that's very valid anymore. And I think we need to increasingly think of ourselves as leaders. Our job is to motivate and inspire, and basically grab a group of people and go and do a difficult thing. And if you can do that, you'll find that people will follow you very happily. What are we seeing here? Unclear goals. Okay. Well, hopefully we covered some of that earlier on, so we can go away and be very specific and measurable and achievable and relevant and time-bound about our goals. And that should help us step out. And if we're nervous about that, just shorten the horizon. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Fear of failure, we'll come to that. Okay. One of the challenges I think a lot of people have with goal setting is that people make their decision horizon or their success horizon too far in the future. We cannot predict the future. We have got no idea what's going to happen next. But what we can do is make sure our actions now give us the best chance of dealing with whatever comes next. And then if we're really clever, we kind of go, what's most likely to happen next? And we start operating in that statistical probability realm. And so if you've got these unclear goals, because it's all a bit murky out there as you look to the future, just bring your decision horizon forward. So let's say we were on the I want to do these 5 plans. We could have an action, which is what I'm going to come up with a diet plan. There you go, that's done. We've taken one step forward. We don't know whether we want to use 3 or 5 or whether it's 1 month or 2 months, but we've started movement on a journey. And I'm a big fan of this methodology for making progress and being proactive, is that recognize that whatever endeavor we're on, up to and including life, there's never an end point. It's always a journey. Let's say you're in a company and you're optimizing operations or you're making sales. It never ends. Doesn't matter how good you are at it, no matter how much you streamline it, it doesn't stop. You don't stop going to work one day and go, we fixed everything, we're done. So everything you need to do in your life is about being on this journey, understanding where you're trying to get to. And when it comes to unclear goals, just take the smallest step you can to move the story towards your objective. Hopefully that helps there on unclear goals. But again, you've got to know where you want to go. But once you've got that, just move slowly forward. Same thing really applies to fear of failure, but you're going to fail. One of the amazing things about being a fighter pilot, and I'll tell you if you promise not to tell anyone, but we failed every single flight. The job was impossible. It was too fast. It was too complex. It was constant failure. Our job was to minimize those failures so we didn't do something bad or kill ourselves or anything else. So if you're not doing something difficult, then you're probably not making much of an impact. So getting used to failure, recognizing that those 8 billion people really don't care about you at all, so no one's laughing at you. Recognize that failure is part of a learning journey and it's inevitable. We all fail. Anytime you do something new, you create a new box and you start to fill it with skills and experiences. And that comes from failures, from your failures, from failures you see from people outside. Really, really important that you just recognize that these failures are small, fast, and we move on from them. Lack of resources. Okay, again, from my perspective, I think that these are our actions, so we can start to move in this direction, even if we don't have lots of resources. And kind of similar on where to start here is that the smallest step you can, write down my goal. There we go. We've started being proactive. We've written down a smart objective about what we want to do. Buy the groceries for my diet. Come up with a plan for the things I need to do to get my project. I want to do some leadership training. Go online and look at the courses I could take. Do a skills analysis and identify where I might be weak. These are all things that I've done with startups, but with clients that help people understand where you want to get to and then take these small steps forward. And hopefully that helps. I'll have a look in the chat to see if anyone's said anything nice. But 4 minutes. Okay, I will speed up then. So anticipate challenges, create opportunities, stay adaptable. So I've covered a lot of this already, is that the best thing you can do is try and work out what's going to go wrong. The world out there doesn't care about you. It's chaos, but there's some things that are likely to screw up your plan. Make sure you identify what they are and prepare for them. By being present in the world, you create opportunities for yourself. And remember that it's not going to work the way you wanted it to work ever. Okay? Have that plan, have that framework, and then be flexible. Remember where you're trying to get to, take decisions that move you closer. We talked about this a minute ago, immediate, short-term, long-term. Worry about what needs to be done right now, and that moves you a little bit towards your journey. Once you've done that, start mapping out your short-term and your long-term elements. I'm going to skip this one for you and then end with intentional networking. Wherever you are now, you need to start getting out there and networking to support whatever your goal is. Understand what you're trying to achieve. Make sure you're adding some value. Follow up. Do not go to networking events, give people a business card or take a business card and then leave, and that's it. You need to follow up. You need to have that meeting. You need to engage with the people that you've networked with. If you're saying, I don't have a network, you have family. You have people that you've met on this call today. You have people that you've met at school, at work. Leverage them to build your network. And throughout all of this, and this trend of integrity comes through all of this, is be authentic and be present when you're networking. You're not out there to get the job or to get the thing or to get the investment. You're there to have that meaningful relationship, that collaboration with that partner first and foremost to support your objectives, and then we'll see how that plays down the line. And I'm going to skip this one as well because we're short of time. So I want to leave you with this. 5 habits as you come out of today. Focus on outcomes. What is it that you want to achieve? If you're building the app, make sure you're solving a problem. Prioritize to get yourself organized. Basically, say no to a bunch of stuff. Be meaningful and intentional about who you collaborate with and how you collaborate. Innovate your thinking by being curious and solving problems with the way that you think about the world. And finally, remember that nothing will change ever at all. And well, it will change, just not in any way that you've got control over. Unless you are active, you are making steps towards what you want to achieve. Do that. Don't be scared of failing. It's going to happen to all of us at some point. Step out there, try it, see how it goes, test, adjust, and move on. So as we sit here, the reflections that we do you want me to do? I showed you want to do the reflection. I remember from the brief now. I can do this if you'd like.
Please, Paul, go ahead.
I will do it since we're here and running. Okay, so what I want you to do now, just before we wrap this up, is that we've got a nice quote there. The goal of leadership is not just to make decisions for yourself, but to inspire change across communities and nations. And hopefully that's what you've got from the talk today. We need to inspire change through our actions. So I want you just to think about how your leadership and how maybe some of these habits we've taught today, how they will impact you personally in your journey. Think about how going through those 5 habits will change the way you approach the world and the changes it will have on you. Think about how those leadership changes might impact the way you work within your team or your organization, and what you can bring into your team or your organization tomorrow, having been here today, that's going to help improve the way that you're moving through the world. And finally, I'd like to think about how your leadership is going to impact the UAE or the people living within the UAE and globally. And think about that positive change that you want to have on the world and how that small step is going to start that journey towards solving it for your app, for example. I think we're out of time, so I'll take you straight to thank you. Please scan the QR code to register interest, but I will let Aisha take over from here.
Thank you, Paul, for the fruitful session. Now, if you may all allow me to give an overview about the App Olympics competition. The App Olympics is a global competition which aims to help anyone bring their mobile app idea to life. So last year, His Highness Sheikh Fazar watched the winners' elevator pitches at the final and prized the overall Dubai App of the Year. The first edition of the competition had over 1,100 applications from 64 countries. And last February, the 12 finalists pitched their apps on stage at the Museum of the Future. Our 4 winners walked away with $150,000 grant to further develop their applications and bring their ideas to life. So this competition is not just about winning the prize, as there are endless benefits that you can get from joining. Like you will have access to our exclusive learning platforms and benefit from an extensive community of support, mentors, including weekly master classes, fireside chats, webinars, and interactive Q&A sessions. All you need to register is just an app idea, and we will offer you all the tools and support. So if you're still listening to me talk, can you please give us a thumbs up so we know? Now, as you can see, let me take you through the timeline of the competition. From now until September 26, we are at the pre-launch phase. This is the 3rd out of 4 workshops that we are offering to prepare your mindset for the competition. So these 4 training sessions will help you in getting in the right mindset and learnings to get ready for the competition. And then October 13th marks the official launch, 13th or 14th, which is during ENS, Expand North Star, the largest gathering of startups in the world where you can submit your applications. So yeah, if you have not yet, please register your interest via the link on the chat. The team will share it shortly. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the App Olympics team by email or feel free to engage on the App Olympics platform. My colleagues will drop the link and email on the chat. And now, without further ado, let's hear from one of our inspiring alumni, Pamela Battis, who was a finalist in the most innovative app category. Pamela, over to you. We'd love to hear more about your journey from last year.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm super happy to be here. Well, as Aisha mentioned, my name is Pamela Battis. I am a student and an independent artist with a big passion for the new technologies, AI, and I had the privilege of being a competitor the last year in the App Olympics initiative by the Dubai Chamber of Digital, where I presented for the first time my application Article. So what is Article? Yeah. So, well, Artico is a safe space, a safe digital space for artists and creatives to showcase their talents, build community, network, and get hired. We facilitate the hiring processes for both clients and talents using a smart AI that builds strong matches. So, well, Artico is not only a platform, we are a movement dedicated and promoting innovation and empowerment within the cultural, artistic, entertainment, and creative sectors, cultivating an ecosystem of vibrant macro communities. We empower creatives, providing them with support, mentorship, sponsors, and many tools to build their creative careers and impact in the digital creative economy seamlessly. So, well, Artico is a user-friendly application that includes several features such as event recommendations, community engagement, and we not only focus in one creative sector, but all of the artistic disciplines. And yes. So, for everyone who is interested in register to the App Olympics, I will love to briefly share some of my personal experience and my journey during the competition. First of all, I will love to say that I will be always grateful to have the honor and the privilege of being part of this journey and a beautiful experience. The App Olympics, participating in the competition provided me with a lot of skills to build my entrepreneurial career, to be part also to get more in touch with the ecosystem of startups in Dubai, to get more closer to the tech industry, as well as participating in the competition. Provided me with a mentorship, training programs, and I will highly, highly recommend and encourage all of entrepreneurs and new projects to also be part of this competition, as long as the App Olympics are providing all and facilitating all of the tools necessary you need to in order to grow your project. And well, apart from this, I would love to share some of advices from the bottom of my heart and also from my experience. And yes, so well, having a startup, it is not easy at all, and sometimes we will face challenges. I would love to tell you that embrace every challenge as an opportunity to grow. It's, well, success isn't just about winning, but resilience, determination, courage, commitment, to be disciplined, to believe in your idea, empower yourself by believing that you can do it and you will do it. Trust the process. Sometimes it seems like the things are not showing results so fast, as long as we're living in this new instant generation. Trust the process. Surround yourself with people who motivates you. Surround yourself with people who can provide you with knowledge, with people who you can exchange, people who believe in yourself and who lift you higher. And yes, the only limitation is your own self. And well, thank you so much. We are Archicon. We believe that the future is creative. So If you would love to track the process, scan the QR code in here, and you can check our website, Instagram, and as well my personal LinkedIn. So if you would love to keep in touch, I will be more than happy to share my experiences, to share my journey, to advise. So anything you need, and best of luck. Thank you so much again for the invitation, and yeah.
Thank you, Pamela. Please scan here to register your interest for the App Olympics. Once you do, and once the competition launches, we'll be sharing a reminder for everyone that expressed their interest to start registering for the competition. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you very soon, inshallah, and looking forward to having you take part of the App Olympics competition. Yeah, we'll be sharing the recording of the video for you guys afterwards. Have a great day.
Until next time, happy learning.